They think they are heroes, fighting to save their worlds. They know nothing of reality, and they won't live long enough to learn.
Break time's over.
Hello, hello. Can you hear us on the internet? I believe we're live. Sound is good? Excellent. Hello, hello, and welcome to a very special live stream indeed. This is the Superfuse Super Stream. And we're going to do something today that has been requested repeatedly since we announced Superfuse a little over a month ago, and actually show you some gameplay. This is going to be the first time ever that we're streaming any gameplay of Superfuse. We're going to show some things that nobody has ever seen before. But before we dive into all of that, my name's Liam, I'm a producer at Raw Fury, and with me today are two very special guests. Guys, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, starting with Tim.
Hey, so hello, I'm Tim. Yeah, and there's a bit of a delay on the stream, so I'm just getting the info now. That was fine. So I run Stitch Hat. I'm one of the official founders, and yeah, we're very excited to present our most ambitious title to date.
Fantastic. Glad to have you, Tim. And what about Bas? Can you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, so I'm Bas. I'm technically the art lead with Stitch Hats. I just do I do looks. I'm here to support Tim and hope to get to some great questions about the art. But we'll see where we head to.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. We'll basically play a bit of a very early version of the game here. And so we're going to be taking you through Eros, and we'll dive into what that area is and what we're going to be playing a little more specifically. But I just want to mention as well that we are keeping an eye on the chat, so if you have any questions for us, we'll be taking some questions live. We've also collected a few questions in advance so that we can go through those. And there's a question here, will the stream be saved? Yes, it will. You'll be able to check it out on YouTube as well. So let's dive right in. What is Superfuse? What are we about to play for anyone who's never heard of it before?
Well, you're going to play a Diablo-like action RPG where you embody a superhero, and as always in these games, you're going to beat hordes of monsters. Except this time, we're doing it in a more sci-fi setting.
Fantastic. And should we talk about the setting at all? I know there's still some areas that we're working on. We might not want to talk about everything, but can you give us a little taste of like what is the general story here? Who is this character we're going to play, and what is their purpose?
Yeah, so you're going to be playing as the Berserker in this case, and it's a world a few hundred years in the future. We're not going to divulge too much on the backstory yet. We're saving some of the good stuff for later. But as you might have already read, the billionaires have gotten superpowers. They've pretty much asserted a lot of control over the solar system, and they're creating their own ranks of superheroes called enforcers. That's kind of where I want to leave it for now.
Okay, that's fair enough. So we're playing the Berserker, and what is this area that we're in now? We're in the Eros docks. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So first up, you're patrolling the solar system as an enforcer. You're being called to Eros because there's some stuff going down there. You don't know what it is yet. You're investigating. There's missing miners. There's a whole bunch of unanswered questions. And you're going to be basically encountering this sort of black trade hub where there's a bunch of NPCs, as always in these kind of games, where you can trade, you can sell your items that you find in your missions, and you can accept quests and get rewards. Now we're using a lot of these sort of comic book inspired elements to tell the story as well. We intend that this means that you can enjoy the story without interrupting the gameplay per se. And yeah. You're just here investigating, so we're going to leave it up to you to investigate.
Ooh, exciting. Yeah, I've already spoken to Santiago. Santiago's telling us some pretty scary news. It looks like we need to go and find some folks who've gone missing. So the best way to do that is probably through some combat. One of the big things in Superfuse, of course, is the skill system, and it goes pretty damn deep. So maybe we should equip some skills before we go on any kind of mission. Guys, I know that you probably both have some favorite skills here, and we need to make a choice. Are we going to go with Slam? Are we going to go with Frenzy, or are we going to go with the Thunder Axe? What should we start with? And we'll explore all of these during the stream, but what would be a good starter, do you think?
Let me see. I mean, I really like the slam, but the frenzy is a nice basic one to start, and then maybe the slam looks more impressive. I don't know.
What do you think, Bas? What would you prefer?
I mean, we all have our preferences, right? I think the slam has always been my favorite, but it really depends on how you want to play it. I mean, we always wanted to give people a set where for the characters that we play to really cater to their wishes. So I think it's something that you should pick completely instead of being.
Well, I'm looking at chat right now, and there's a lot of slam requests coming in. So I'll tell you what, we'll go with slam. That's our first ability. But let's talk about this, right? Because what we're looking at now is the talent tree, and we've essentially got a choice between 3 different skills to begin with. And all of these skills have these additional talents underneath them. What are we looking at here? Like, what is this tree all about?
Yeah, so each hero has their own sets of talents that you can specialize into. So as you level up, you unlock more talent points to spend, passive skill points essentially, and there's also unlock skills. Now, there's still, of course, a very early stage build, but you're going to be able to specialize into 3 categories for the Berserkers, for the Berserker, which is the brute force, the lightning, and his default sort of combat kit. So in this case, if you go lightning, you have the lightning axe, and you go more combat oriented, you get hand-to-hand combat like the frenzy. Brute force, the first one there is the slam, and as you go further into it, you'll get more epic abilities, and these abilities can then be customized further. And the talents essentially customize your character, whereas the skill trees for the individual skills customize the skill itself. So you've got a skill creator, and this is essentially the character creator, I guess, for the.
So let's dive into the skill creator, because that is when this really comes alive, right? Because so we picked the slam ability, we picked one of these 3, and each of these, as you're saying, has its own skill creator, so its own kind of skill tree. So we have a choice to make here as well. We can go in different directions with slam. What does all of this mean? Like, how different can we make slam as an ability?
Yeah, so what we kind of focused on from a very early beginning, we wanted to create a system that allowed players to customize their skills and basically present their abilities as so that this is them, right? To create their own signature abilities, essentially. So we set up this sort of trigger system where, based on various triggers, like on start or on hit or when killing an enemy or when the ability ends, which is more like some triggers we might have also not revealed yet, and they might be very focused around certain types of abilities, because there's defensive type abilities, there's offensive abilities, there's buffs, and they all have their own sort of trigger system. Now, in these trigger systems, there's a bunch of fuses that we call them, power fuses, and they customize how your skill behaves. So you could, for instance, speed up the ability when it's a projectile. You can add a dash to it. You can split or fork the ability into multiple directions. You can ricochet it off walls when you hit a wall, and once you add, for example, a fork, you can also. So the fork is the one at the bottom left or middle left. Yeah, on the start. If you add one of those, for example, you also get some passives that so like sort of mini sub skill trees in its own fuse, and you can start increasing the amount of splits, or you can make it wider or more narrow, and you can sort of start tweaking this ability even further.
Yeah, this gets pretty crazy pretty quickly. Absolutely. So we do have a fork ability now, or a fork fuse, sorry. So just compare those real quick. And by the way, this is still a work in progress. We're still very early days, so you're going to see some bugs today. You're going to see some rough corners. Sorry about that, but we wanted to show you guys early. I'm just going to give you a taste of what's been cooking here. So the fork fuse is basically splitting this slam into a triple projectile, and we can go even further.
Yes, and you might actually want to use the cheat. We've currently got a nice cheat for having unlimited skills, so that you could really showcase it.
Should we do that? Okay, we'll cheat a little bit.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right, so should we just go crazy? Just deck out a slam? Okay, let's do it. So we're gonna add splitting projectiles. We get even more projectiles. Okay, we're gonna widen the angle. We're gonna increase the effectiveness. We're gonna narrow the angle as well, which is an interesting choice of combinations. And what about a little zigzag on the end? What do you think? Sound good?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Let's add a little zigzag. Okay, so this is not even remotely near how crazy this can get. But watch this. Oh my!
Thanks the game. lags, crashes. There we go.
I think we're ready to go fight. Well, actually, I need to turn this cheat off. That we can't be cheating here.
Ah,
We can't be cheating. We're gonna do this legit. We're gonna win legit.
okay,
We'll start with split. Okay, split 4 projectiles. That'll do it. That'll be all right. Okay, so let's dive in. Now, you talked about this being a Diablo-inspired action RPG, and we're about to come into what is the Upper Mine. So this is like a dungeon in the game, right? How do dungeons function in Superfuse?
Yeah, so we have a generation system, and we essentially develop them as chunks. So there's still level design that we do. It's not entirely not fully generated. There's small sort of puzzle pieces that are created and level design, etc. As they can rotate 360 degrees, so they can come in every sort of orientation, and then they're kind of like strung together. And there's side paths and main paths and sub dungeons generated into these areas. And that leads from a start to an end, and then you go to the next part, essentially. So that does, of course, increase the scope a little bit, but we wanted to add little touches to the environment that we felt with generation we couldn't do as much. Yeah.
Right.
Let's see how you start doing actually.
Oh man, I'm dying already. I'm gonna need these cheats. Oh no.
Yeah,
These guys are really strong. Okay, we've run straight into some elites, basically. Oh no.
yeah.
If I die on stream, the first thing I do, chat's never gonna forgive me for this. Oh,
Definitely.
literally, I've died immediately. Okay, we're gonna respawn at the waypoint. That's okay. There's a question there in the chat. Talking about the skill fuses. How do you unlock these? Is it every single level you get an additional fuse? Are some of them locked behind something specific? Like, what can we say about that?
Yeah, so currently in this demo, I mean, you kind of unlock all the skill fuses at the start already. That's not the intention for later down the line. We're working on a nice progression system for it. That's simply not in this demo yet. And this is, of course, also already a pretty dated demo by now. But yeah, the idea is that you're going to be unlocking these fuses as you go, whether that's through quest rewards or through finding them from certain monsters. So these elites also have some of these power fuses. So they might be forking or splitting their ability, or their shots might be homing, and this is how you can potentially target farm these specific power fuses, and then you can access them and use them.
All right. So we found a little axe, and that certainly helped. The axe that dropped there was very lucky because now we managed to kill those guys. Got something of an epic here. What can we say about the loot system? I know this is an area that we're still very much exploring, and a lot of this is early days, but what are your goals here for the loot system?
So yeah, we have multiple rarities. So you've got the common items, you've got the uncommon items, which is a blue color for us, and then we've got epic items, which are purple, and then we've got unique items, which are more orange gold. The idea is that the common ones, the white items, they don't essentially have any special stats, but the epic ones the epic and the uncommon ones get a range of stat groups, as we call them. So there's essentially a couple of stats or attributes you can roll randomly on an item, and these stats they get rolled into groups so that we can potentially also overlap these groups. And there's more rare groups that have more than 2 stats, for example. And this is how we hope to diversify the amount of variation in items a lot more. And then the unique items are a bit of a special case because they have a lot more predetermined stats. So they might have ranges within it where maybe, for example, the damage of the weapon has a range where it can roll, where it's like a pretty good weapon to an amazing weapon, or its attack speed is between 25% and 40% increased, for example. And that's really our sort of like philosophy at the moment in the items.
Awesome. There's a question here from Glitchheart. Are they going to be any set items? Is that something we can talk about at this stage?
At this stage, we can really talk about it with stuff that we're exploring, but it's all a little bit in development, and we don't want to say anything that might not make it to release. But it's definitely something that's got our attention. So
absolutely. But let's talk a little bit about Eros and this location that we're currently in. Is this the first act in the game? Is that right?
Yeah. Maybe Bas wants to take this one.
Yeah. So this indeed is the first act in the game. Like many similar games, we will be splitting up into acts. Ours itself is a mining colony out in space. For the ones who are familiar with the solar system, this is an actual asteroid that exists. And and so some people settled in here and started mining away at this. And our enforcer is currently here, as we saw before, because there was a call for one. I mean, we kind of split up. We have a few factions coming in for our locations. And one of them is what we call the Outer Rim, which is what Eros is part of. And these are we kind of style them to be Mesoamerican cyberpunk people who are just trying to survive in the middle of space to the best of their ability.
Awesome. So we found something pretty nasty here. This is a corruption nest, and it is spawning a bunch of screechers on us. Can we talk a little bit about this? What is this corruption? What is going on here?
Yeah, so the corruption is essentially a very versatile plague that hit the solar system, and I'm not going to divulge any of its origins yet. It's definitely very versatile when it comes to how it spreads. So you have the corruption. It can be airborne. It can be in liquids. It can be through binding. So you also encounter a lot of affected miners here. And the corruption spreads as sort of an organic material, so it actually has a bit of a, I wouldn't say a life of its own, but it does copy, mutate, and sort of transmogrify itself. So it takes on different shapes and fuses with other aspects.
Okay.
I'll leave it there for now.
Interesting. I like it. Yeah. No. Absolutely. We got to keep some secrets for later. So for anyone tuning in who missed the start there, what we're playing right now is Superfuse. This is a game that was announced a little over a month ago. It's an action RPG that is going to be launching in early access later this year. This is the first time we've ever shown any live gameplay of this game. So if you are tuning in live, you're in luck because you get to ask us questions. And speaking of questions, let's take one from the chat right now. Sorry, I fixed the audio in game there. I see a question if there was audio. There definitely is audio. It's now fixed. Let's see. Is each character going to have distinct stories in a similar world? That's an interesting question.
We do focus on a story from the world point of view, but not necessarily from the character point of view. This is also because we are still a pretty small team. We don't have branching narrative or anything like that. We will have fully voiced characters. And that means that we're definitely also having to consider the vast amount of options that are there for us. So not every character has its own unique background. There's definitely classes to it, but they are more so a subfaction, if you will. So where you can have many berserkers, and it's not like you both control the same character, because you can play together as both the berserker, for example.
Gotcha. Cool. There's a question here from Goriella Punks. Are the levels randomly generated like in Diablo? And the answer to that was we talked about that a little bit earlier. The answer is basically yes, but I guess some of the areas also have set locations and sort of set pieces. So
exactly. So that system that we developed with sort of chunks that we can string together also means that we can create what we call altered levels. And the idea here is that some areas of significance might have distinct landmarks or locations. So awesome. Definitely generated levels, randomized, but there's also distinct locations.
I will patch through Santiago.
Cool. I've teleported back to the mines here because I want to do a little more grinding before we get to the second area. After I died immediately in the beginning of the stream, I feel bad. So now I'm going to try to level up a little bit, get some better gear. There was a question here from, first, there's a shout out from Max62802. They say that they love the graphics and art so much. And I think we should talk about that a little bit. So first, thank you. Bas takes credit here, I hope. Can we talk about the inspiration for the look? Because it's a really interesting visual style here.
Yeah, thanks. Always love to hear it, obviously. As you said before, comic books are a major inspiration for us. Kind of story-wise, but also visuals, and we really try to hit that aesthetic with whatever we're doing. There's a whole bunch of that that was inspired by us. Like we looked like Invincible, who is more of a contemporary one, but we also looked at more of the older stuff like Batman Beyond. But comic books in general is just a huge thing that we've been looking at since we're younger, and it kind of felt to us that we started making this project, and we could kind of make that come to fruition.
Awesome. All right, just dealing with some elites here. Looking good, getting some more epics. Nice. We got a question from Foxify VT. Shout out, by the way. This is, I hear, this is someone who you know from way back from your previous project. Is that right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Hey, Foxify. Everything good?
So there's a big question here. They have to leave soon
Right.
for a meeting, so we're gonna take this one now. How many movement skills are in this game? How often can you use them? And will there be motion sickness settings? For example, easing the camera a little bit more with movement skills and reducing camera jitter. This is a really interesting
Right.
question.
So that's always something that we're definitely looking at. I mean, for previous game Compounds, we also had to, of course, very carefully develop the camera because it was so fast, the game, that we wanted to try and minimize that risk as much as possible. I think I'm aware of what you mentioned. We've all played these other games in the genre. So there's definitely some abilities in Path of Exile that go crazy, and you go so fast that it becomes very jarring on the eyes. I would say that we're probably targeting the general settings that most games launch with, such as taking off screen shakes and whatnot. I'm not sure how much settings we will actually have in early access, but it's something that we're definitely always making sure that we keep in mind and that we listen to, because we do think it's important that people can just play and enjoy the game. And for movement abilities, well, there's there's even a fuse that allows you to turn any ability into movement ability, which I actually really enjoy. For instance, with the Frenzy, if you reduce the energy costs on it and you add a dash to it, I think it's a really good way to get around, personally.
Okay, I'm doing that right now. That sounded cool. I'm actually going to get rid of Slam a little bit. I feel like I'm going to change this build up. So we're going to swap Slam for a Thunder Axe instead. I really like the Thunder Axe. But you were saying, okay, so we need to reduce the energy cost, and then we need to get a
Get the
dash.
skill points, yeah.
I like the sound of this. Okay, so we're adding dash. Right, so every time we use Frenzy now, we're going to dash forwards, which means that we can essentially just be this badass assassin and then dive right into the enemies. And then we need some energy reduction. Absolutely, that's a good idea. We're going to have to, I guess, level up a little bit to get there. But
Yeah.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. We can use some boosters. I'm just going to get more damage. We'll just get more damage. Damage is always good, right?
Yeah, always good.
And we have a Thunder Axe as well. There's something about the Thunder Axe that we need to talk about too. I know this this visual effect that we're seeing here is a little bit old at this point. We've actually got an updated version that Tim was nice enough to bring a little video along. So we're going to look at that in a bit. But you get to see some of the progress that's happened even since this version of the game was built. There's a question here about multiplayer, because to be clear, Superfuse is launching in early access this year. It's going to be launching with online co-op. And the question here from Mind Distorter is, how many players will be able to play together in one instance? And will there be offline couch co-op?
Yes, so online you'll be able to play with 4 players. We'll definitely support offline. I'm not sure about couch co-op yet. We simply haven't explored it. I don't think that I'll make it to early access. Who knows what the future brings? We've done couch co-op for Kabounce, so we definitely have experience with it. But we also know that it's something to really take care of and make sure that it's good.
Sounds good. Look at this. Now we got the dash ability with the Frenzy. You're just diving around. This is costing a lot of energy, but it's pretty badass. Very, very nice. All right, Foxify, thanks for tuning in. There are a bunch of questions here, and I need to kill this little thing. Can we talk a little bit about the combat system in general, though? Because I know that one thing that's always interesting in games like this is how you handle things like potions, healing, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We've got a booster system here in Superfuse. Can we talk a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, of course. So we've created a system where essentially if you want to get better, you're just using a bunch of drugs, right? You're injecting yourself with a booster, and these boosters will have a range of various buffs. Some are just healing or energy regeneration boosters, but some might also be more special and do multiple things at the same time. You've got hybrid boosters, you've got boosters that give you speed bonuses. So there's definitely other games we looked at. We looked at the potion systems from Diablo, and we looked at the flash system from Path of Exile, and we tried to combine a little bit of the best of both worlds. So these boosters do have charges. They, in essence, have limited use, but you can recharge those use cases, and you're not necessarily tied to combat to recharging them. So that means that in a boss fight, you can use careful positioning to regain some of the charge over time.
Very cool. And these boosters, they have different effects. Some of them might give you temporary buffs and things like that, right?
Yeah, like armor or damage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff. Are there going to be different damage types with different statuses? Cold slows, fire does damage over time, etc. Question from NB Boys.
Yes, that's not reflected yet in this version of the demo, but there's definitely an ailment system we have for the various elements that. Cold will slow, fire will indeed do a little bit of area of effect and damage over time, and of course these are all subject to change, but those are things that we've been developing.
Very nice, very nice. I'm gonna actually change skills here a little bit again. We're gonna change to the Thunder Axe, and I'd like to do a nice forking little Thunder Axe. It's always a lot of fun. Maybe a bit of zigzag in that. Get some split projectiles. Reduce the energy cost. We're gonna need that. Okay, so
I love the homing on the Thunder Axe with Pierce.
Okay, let's do that. That sounds insane. Homing, you say? Let's get some homing. All right. So we're gonna actually homing. It's gonna chase our enemies down. We'll get that instead of zigzag.
Yeah.
With piercing as well. Would you rather have that than the fork, or should we try and get both?
So the nice thing, I don't think you have the skill points yet.
No.
But the nice thing is if you start adding pierce to it, you've got a chance that it pierces to the enemy. And if you also start adding ricochet to it and you got the homing, and it can bounce off a wall and re-home towards the enemy that you just hit for hitting them another time. And if it pierces again, maybe it's another time. So you get some free shots.
I think he figured it out how to do both.
We got it. Look, this is crazy. All right, our Thunder Axe now splits into 4 projectiles, not just 3. We got 4 projectiles. It homes after our enemies and deals full damage. And it has a 40% chance to pierce through enemies now. This is going to be interesting. All right, this is going to be very interesting. One thing that I'd like to do now, though, Tim, is you wanted to show a little video of some of the updates that have been working behind the scenes. So this is the Thunder Axe ability as it looks right now in this version of the game. But we actually have a bit of a work in progress video here that I'm going to just pull up. What you're about to see is a new version of what this looks like. So this is the very latest visual effects. So take a look at this and you can see. Look at that. So Thunder Axe is no longer blue. It is now a beautiful, beautiful pink. Look at that. Guys, when you approach things like these skill effects, I mean, I'd imagine that the complexity of just being able to combine the skills so much must cause a lot of really interesting issues and problems and challenges when it comes to the art side of things. Bas, how do you approach something like this?
Yeah, a very good question. Can you watch yourself real quick? Sorry. Yeah, so the way we approach is obviously, once again, we look at comic books, and as you saw when we got close up, there was like chromatic aberration to it, and we tried to get like half toning in there. So these are all effects that you get from printing, actually, in comic books. For people that maybe have paid a bit of attention to a few years ago, we had Spider-Verse coming in, who actually kind of touched on these things as well, which was definitely an inspiration point for us. Like, we're huge fans. And it's we just really started looking, okay, how crisp does stuff need to be? How does it, how does certain shape language work the best for getting some of these looks right? And from there, just going from the ground up, getting looks and even timings correct to kind of tie it in with with more of these comic book inspired animations that you find.
Very nice. Very, very nice. There's another question here which relates to art, and we're going to swap back to some gameplay here again. We'll get back in. Now we're in the cold cargo space, so we're heading down towards the frozen core, and see how we do. We got some ice coming through now. There was another question here in the chat, though, that I'd love to talk about, and it is from Gory Ella Punks. Do items affect the way that you look when you equip them?
Yes, very much so, actually. So we will have items that you obviously can equip, and they. I mean, you saw it yourself when you're equipping new stuff that it immediately is reflective on your character. We do plan to ship with what we call a paint shop, where you can customize the look of the items that you have equipped as well.
Very nice. Always good to have some customization in there. And we have a very important question in the chat here, and I'm glad this came up. This is definitely something we'd love to talk about. It's still something that's in discussion, though, so we might not be able to answer this specifically. But the question is from Glitchheart. Are you able to talk about the monetization plans for the game? Tim, maybe you want to speak about that a bit?
Yeah, of course. The game is going to be premium. You pay it, you pay for it, you buy it, get it, and no pay to win. We might have cosmetic upgrades in the future, but there's definitely the idea is that you get the content that you've paid for, right? So yeah, I mean that's kind of I think how simple we can keep it.
Absolutely.
No NFTs. Yeah.
No NFT, no blockchain, none of that stuff. No pay to win. You know, it's going to be as fair as we can possibly make it. Absolutely. Oh man, there's a lot of enemies in here. So what are we here to do right now? We're in this cold cargo. We're trying to activate the ETR. What's going on here?
Yeah, so there's someone who's did communications across the colony, so you're trying to restore it, but this cargo got a little bit cold because someone turned off the heater. Very basic description. It goes a little bit further. This guy will explain everything in the game for you, and it's way too technical. Yeah, you're just trying to get rid of this infection here and trying to turn the temperature up.
Gotcha. Another question here.
Doors you have to open and whatnot.
Right, so there are some puzzles that you need to solve in these various dungeons in order to progress, basically, and then I'm gonna guess that we're gonna have some pretty cool boss fights in Superfuse. Is that right?
Yes, definitely boss fights, and I mean I'm not sure if we can go as far as calling them puzzles. I mean I wouldn't necessarily describe them myself as puzzles, but there are occasionally objectives that you have to complete indeed to progress.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fair. Question here on, can we know the names or at least the archetypes of the other classes? Everything we know is about the Berserker. Unfortunately, we're not quite ready to talk about the other classes just yet. I'll save you from that question, guys. I know that there's a lot of cool stuff in the works, and we're looking forward to sharing that soon. But today we're just focused on the Berserker. And this combination that you sold me on, this Thunder Axe with the piercing and the homing is working out pretty well. Look at that.
Yeah, if you get some more upgrades, it'll work even better. I think the chance to pierce is quite low now. But yeah, once you start upgrading, and maybe I'm just cheating too much. Maybe that's just it. And all my upgrades are always cool.
I'm playing very legit here. Maybe we can maybe we can increase that somehow. That's right. Should we? Oh, let's get another wild card in here. Okay. So what other fuse would be good to put into this ability, do you think?
Well, I like the ricochet a lot. So you
ricochet? Let's do that. That sounds crazy. Okay, so now our Thunder Axe is just bouncing around all over the place. This is fantastic. Question here from Whistles Sticks, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names. Whistle Sticks. Will there be a hardcore permadeath mode? It's essential for ARPGs, they say.
Yes.
Yes, sweet, short, simple. There you go. It'll be there. Guys, I'm curious. What was it that drove you to build Superfuse? Like, what was the moment where you realized you wanted to make a game like this?
Well, so yeah, I mean there was a lot of considerations, of course, because I mean we were a very small team when we started the project. I think we were only 4 people at the time, so it was definitely something that we couldn't make with that team. So we had to hire a lot more people. We just had to, you know, it was a big choice. But one of the reasons was that we looked at what other games there were in this sort of in this market for this game for this genre, and we felt there wasn't really a good sci-fi version of it yet. I mean, there's I know there's some in the Warhammer universe, I believe, but yeah, we just wanted to do something with superheroes as well. I wanted to bring this comic style to it, make a really stylized version, and yeah, I guess it was also for us at the time. We were of the opinion that there weren't a whole lot of games announced for this genre, and since there's so many games releasing, we just wanted to make something that felt a little bit more unique and that fit with the sort of skill system that we wanted to build.
Mm.
That was something that the skill system kind of came before the demo. That was kind of a prototype that we started with.
Okay. You're getting a nice shout out for Kabounce style monetization. And for those of you who are unaware, Kabounce is the first game that Stitchhead's Entertainment put out.
Help at last.
Yeah, and I see our Marvel Heroes made, rest in peace. Yeah, yeah.
It was a cool game.
Agreed, yeah.
But I've lost contact with them.
There's a question here from the Imperium Lord. Do weapons affect how skills behave? It's an interesting one.
Should I do that one? Or?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I wanted to also touch. I saw like a visual thing kind of cute in there, but go ahead.
All right. So weapons do not necessarily affect how skills behave. There might be unique items that do have modifiers on specific skills. Some most items have their own sort of identity, and you can equip them across all characters. So when you have an item that you find on the Berserker, it may also have value for another character that you might be playing, which might be a very different class, right? And some items may be very class specific, and those class specific items may also affect how your skill functions. So those definitely have an effect, but over the gist of it is that that items do not, like, it's not like if you equip a common 200 axe that your skill suddenly drastically changes or anything. It's just damage and speed that change.
Carry anything else.
Gotcha. And Bas, did you want to talk about the art there as well?
I mean, it's as I think Imperium Lord said, whether it becomes like a whether there's like a visual change. I saw that coming by as well, which I mean we'd love to do. I think the idea is super cool, but yeah, it's we're not to that size yet where we can kind of get to that point of customization.
Gotcha. Okay, tell you what, I think we're ready. We're level 5 now. I think we're ready to deck out Slam again. See if we could make that work. We get some more energy. We got some more cool gear. I'm gonna try it out. I really like the Slam ability. I just do. What do you think? Maybe chat can decide. What kind of fuses would you like us to put in? Should we do some zigzag, some forking, some extra speed, some mirroring? What do you want to see? What do you want to see in this Slam ability? Give him a second. There was a question here from about monetization. Yeah, it's a premium game. There's not going to be any pay to win or anything like that. If we do any kind of additional things, it'll be cosmetic only. Okay, Space Captain Space, fork. This is for you. We're adding a little fork. We need one more fuse, folks. What do you want? What do you want to see? Could do homing, could do poison damage. Could do dash. A dash slam, that sounds kind of sick. Homing on slam, okay. We'll throw some homing in. That sounds good. A little dash, okay, we're gonna do dash as well. We're going all in. This is gonna be something else. Okay, check this out, let's see. Oh man, okay, this is gonna be something else. Yes, indeed. Question again from Imperium Lord. Question for far in the future. Any plans to add more classes? So without talking about what these classes could be, will we have more classes?
Yeah, so we do plan to release early access with 3 classes. So another question come by whether there's another option to Punchy Boy, which yes, there definitely will be, and we're going to release with what currently is on the plan 5 characters, which will each have their own unique set of abilities.
And of course, these are things that as we get closer to early access and as we develop the game through to 1.0 and potentially beyond, these things may change. These are our current plans, but certainly we're very excited about talking more about these characters in the future. Okay, I'm going full in with the slam ability. I think that's the way. If we're going to survive a little boss fight, we're going to need a strong slam. Oh,
yeah,
man, look at that.
You can do some pretty crazy stuff with it.
Well, what are some of your favorite skill combos to do? Like I know, Tim, you told us about the Thunder Axe piercing, homing, ricocheting combo. You got any other favorites you want to talk about?
I mean, there was this. I still haven't figured out how he did it, but there was this one journalist that we gave an early demo, and he built the slam in such a way that it became this sort of firewall of death and destruction.
Oh,
wow. It was pretty cool. It was very limited in its range, but it's like he just hit it near a door, and everything that ran through just died. It was a very interesting build. So I've seen a lot of different ones. I mean, once you start focusing more on the area of effect, you of course do diminish the amount of single target damage you do. But what I like to personally at the moment is I like to make it home and pierce through, and I really like to tweak the homing so that I can kind of like swoop the slam backwards when it's gone through an enemy. And this is my exploit to get the boss down faster and farm faster.
Love it. I imagine this is one of those areas it's always going to be a challenge to get right in terms of balance. There's going to be certain builds that are just crazy. Is that something that you guys are worried about, or is it something you embrace?
Yeah, so we kind of like go from the approach where, if everyone's overpowered, it's kind of okay, right? And I mean, we realize that it's an ambitious title. I mean, there's definitely going to be things that we want to look at for balancing point of view. But at the end of the day, I think usually with these games, the overall enemies are just cannon fodder, and once you start adding a lot of these effects for AoE, you start diminishing the single target damage, you're going to run into bosses or elites that might have a lot of resistances against whatever you're using. So if you don't diversify, you don't have a single target skill, then you're going to run into a brick wall potentially, or something that at least gives you a hell of a fight. And I think that's absolutely fine. So in that sense, at the end of the day, you're going to have to feel like a god, right? So once you've really customized everything, you've unlocked everything, you want the player to feel really powerful. And you want to whatever you want to build, you should be able to build. And yeah, more blood explosions.
I love the sound of that. Yeah, I'm digging the slam right now. I think this is the way. This is the way. We just heard a big roar there. I don't know if you guys heard that. I don't know what that was. I guess we'll have to find out. So some questions, some more interesting questions here. Is there going to be a crafting system? That's something we haven't talked about that at all, really. So I don't know how much we can discuss today. But are there plans for something like that?
We have plans for something like that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Nice. So moving on.
Yeah.
Nothing we can talk about just yet. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Could there was one. Hang on. Scrolling up. Right. Okay. So, are there going to be any kind of healing abilities? That's an interesting one. You know, potentially things that could support in co-op play. I know that there are some shouts and stuff like that. What stuff do we have that isn't combat focused?
Yeah. So there is even, I believe, a mod that switches the damage type. So a fuse, right, that you slot into your ability that switches the damage type to healing, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it works. I mean, I'm not playing a whole lot of healing character, so let me follow up on that in a later stream, because yes, there's someone asked as well, is there going to be more of these streams? I think because it's called #1, I believe we have plans for more, right?
Absolutely, yeah. This is something we're hoping to do regularly, and once we get a little further along, it'd be a lot of fun to do some multiplayer streams as well, and just kind of show you guys what the game looks like in co-op action.
Yeah.
Here's a question that, again, might be a little challenging to talk about right now, but Jesus Christus 666, which is an incredible name, would like to know about a max level character and what they would look like. How many points do we have in our hands? Would we be able to max out only one talent tree or several? I'm sure these are things that we're still, early days, still discussing, still figuring out. But is there anything we can talk about in that regard?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, how we're kind of looking at it is that you're going to be able to level your character to about level 100, give or take. And you're probably already going to be able to play through the game at an earlier level. So really getting more skill points at that point just makes your character more powerful. Because a level up can have quite significant impacts in this. And as you play through the game, you might have quests. These might be side quests, optional quests, whatever. But they might give you awards such as extra talent points for you to spend. There might be items that give you a bonus to the amount of skill points you have in any given skill, or the amount they have in the tree, those kind of things. So when you have a max level character, I expect that you do have a bit of a focus in a certain tree, but you might have also diversified or went for more of a specialization in 2 trees, but you're just not as specialized as someone else would be, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
And presumably, there's some questions now about endgame. There's going to be some kind of endgame mechanics there as well, but again, a little bit too early for us to dive into specifics. But I mean, it's fair to say this is a game that's being designed to be very replayable. Is that right, guys?
Yeah. So I mean, we can't really go into endgame too much yet, since we're also still developing some of those systems. But there's definitely plans for that, and endgame challenges, what we call them at the moment, that hopefully also provide an interesting way to play the game in a different way. That's what I'll leave it at for now. Maybe for a future stream we can go in a bit more depth.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're running a little short on time, so we're gonna do about 5 more minutes. Probably not gonna get all the way to the end of this area, but we shall see. There's a question about certain item drops. This is always a fun question. I always love to hear this. Are certain items going to drop from certain bosses or enemy types, or can they drop from anyone?
Yeah. So actually, that is something that we have. That certain enemies might have a bit of a different loot table.
Okay.
How far that goes or how deep that goes, that's something that we haven't really fully decided on. But we currently do already tweak some enemies or bosses to have a higher probability for certain things, or for rarities as well, of course.
That's always fun. You know, it's nice to kind of hunt down that specific item, and if you know that it's going to happen in a particular area or a particular encounter, it's quite nice to be able to increase your chances of getting it, or having to hunt down someone specific for the thing you want. Right? Always good fun.
This homing circular radial thing that you made out of this,
you know,
cool.
It's a work of art. I'm gonna see if we can make that even crazier. How do we do that? What can we do to make this? Oh, some ricocheting on this, of course.
Yeah, maybe,
course.
yeah, because I mean, it does seem like it cannot turn around fast enough yet, so it's not necessarily getting the enemy again fast enough, right?
Hang on a
You can
second.
optimize it a bit more.
Yeah, we can make this better. I'm gonna remove that one. I'm gonna actually remove ricochet. I think we can do better than ricochet. I'm gonna add another fork.
Or you can do a split when you hit an enemy. That's also very
A
interesting.
split. Okay, let's do that. That sounds good. Split.
Different one, unhit.
Yeah.
With the unhit trigger, yeah.
Got it. So now we have a chance of the projectile splitting every time we hit this. It gets pretty exciting pretty quickly. Oh wow, that guy soaked up a bunch of damage. Boom! Someone just flew off screen. That was beautiful. Is there going to be character customization, gender, face, build, etc.? That's kind of big undertaking, but Bas, maybe that's a question for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very fair question. We won't be doing gender swap or anything where we get like full customization of our character, just because it isn't within the scope currently for the team that we have. We do hope to hit some of the good parts where a lot of the armor will be customizable, and we do plan to ship with characters that have very diverse looks to them. So we hope to kind of hit the right marks for everyone. But yeah, we obviously work with the tools that we have.
Oh, absolutely. When you have a smaller team, you have to make some trade-offs there, and can't do everything, unfortunately. But one of the things one of the reasons why we're so excited about doing early access is we definitely need that feedback from players. We're super curious to hear what players want to see more of, what kind of changes and what kind of features that they're curious to get into the game. So certainly a lot of these things are going to be discussions, but certain areas, we're not a AAA team here, so we're going to have to make some concessions, unfortunately. And we're going to start wrapping up. We'll do 3 more questions, 3 final questions, then we're going to call it a day. One of those questions is, are there any plans for summons? So it's going to be a character that can summon little minions.
I'll keep it very simple, yes.
There you go. So we actually got some okay, well, I'm not going to dive into that. Not going to talk more about that. There was a question earlier about when is early access coming out? Is it going to be coming out before Christmas?
No space for that.
And the answer to that is hopefully. We're aiming for this year. And I know there was one question that we got before the stream. Let's just cover that, and then we'll do another final question. It's about controller support. Is that something that we're considering? Is it something that's going to be coming in early access? Might it be later? Where are we looking with controller support?
Yeah, so I think that's a really important question, and it's one that doesn't necessarily have the easiest answer. It's something that we're talking about, we're looking at internally. We also made the bounce with where hot swap the controller for keyboard while you're playing it. The one thing that we're always considering is, because we also have plans to add certain leaderboard things for speed runs and whatnot. So we just want to make sure that we consider the angles when when you switch from any kind of controller type, that it still feels like the same game, and that no one feels like they have an advantage. But yeah, so it's can't promise yet. Looking into it.
Sounds good. Sounds good, guys. All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. We're not gonna get all the way to the boss fight today, which is not enough time for that. So we'll save that for another stream. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. Really, it's been a pleasure. It's so much fun being able to show some gameplay finally of Superfuse live in action. Tim and Bas, thank you so much for joining me today and for speaking about this this wonderful game. Anything that you want to tell players before we shut this down?
Good question. Is there anything that we still wanna add? You maybe, Bas?
I mean, put me on the spot here. I mean, I can thank people because I see a lot of people saying that they really like the look, so it really is kind of, kind of warms my heart. No, I don't think I really have something on mind right now.
Okay. Well, guys, appreciate it. Where can people find out more about Superfuse?
I believe there's a Superfuse game.com, and there's also a Discord where the devs hang out, which is discord.gg/Superfuse. And then there's a Twitter, I think, and Instagram, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there we go. The links are all over the place.
A lot of places. And if you like what you see, if you're interested in Superfuse, definitely make sure to wishlist it on Steam. Helps us a lot. Much appreciated. Thanks again, everyone. We're definitely looking forward to doing more streams of Superfuse in the future. Tim, Bas, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, thank you, you as well.
Thanks, everyone, for the questions and for tuning in. And have a great weekend.
Awesome. Until next time.
Cool. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
They think they are heroes, fighting to save their worlds. They know nothing of reality, and they won't live long enough to learn.